So anyway, picked this up off of Craigslist for $50, and you know, the person selling it had indicated that it will only run for a second and then shut down. He put in a new spark plug. He said he cleaned the fuel system. I asked him to clarify, and it sounded like he had drained the gas out, pulled the bowl on the carburetor, but that was it, and a new air filter, and still doing the same thing. So I got a good deal on it. Hopefully it's not trash. It is an older model, and not a lot of parts available for it, so hopefully it doesn't need parts. So I guess before I dig into the carburetor, I do want to check a few things. I'm going to check the spark, make sure that's why, you know, not the cause of it dying, and check the oil as well before I start it. And I'll probably plug a light into it just to see if I can determine if it makes power. If it doesn't make power, there's really no point in proceeding. So let's try those tests. Okay. So he also said he put new oil in it, so hopefully he did. And yeah, it doesn't look that new, but it might be slightly low, but it's okay. At least for testing. If it comes back, then I'll put some fresh oil in it. And I don't know if this one has a low oil sensor, which is why I'm going to test for spark right now and see when it dies. Is it still sparking, or is it losing spark? All right, so we got the spark tester on there. It is kind of a little bit loose, so that could be an issue, but we'll try it. I'm also going to plug this light in, see if we get any power. Choke's on switch is on. I don't think there's a fuel shut off. Actually, there is, but it's backwards, but it's on. So let's see what it does. And there's not much gas in here, so I'm going to put some more in and try it again. Okay, put a little bit of gas in there. It would be really nice if that's the only problem, but I'm sure that's not it. It sounded like the guy tried a lot of things, so anyway, definitely has enough gas now. So I'll turn the choke back on, set to run. Nothing. All right, so I'm probably going to take off this air intake and squirt a little starting fluid in there. I really just want to see, again, if it makes power before cleaning the carb and wasting my time. Okay, well, it's a Briggs engine. The carburetor actually looks to be Tecumseh maybe, but okay. So I'll give that a little spray and try it again. Okay, no light. Sometimes these have to run for a few minutes before they, not minutes, few seconds. I'll try it again. And no light. All right, well, unfortunately I can't get it run for more than a few seconds, so don't know if it makes power, but I guess I'll take it to the next step anyway and try cleaning out this carb. Okay, so I got those screws removed there, and there was one down here, and then there was a breather tube attached right there. So came off. It was actually a little loose, so maybe he was in here. Well, actually, he did say he pulled the bowl, so he must have pulled this off already. So now it's really just removing those two screws on either side and disconnecting the linkage and the fuel line, and this should be ready to come out. Okay, so this one was pretty easy to take out. It was just the two screws holding it in. The fuel does smell pretty bad, so I'm just gonna see what comes out of this hose. Not too bad. I don't see any water. There is, some particles in there, but nothing too concerning. So now I'm going to take the bowl off and see what surprises are inside. Okay, this is the fuel that came out of the bowl. Not too bad. No water. It does have a pretty bad smell. Anyway, this is what I see in the bowl. Not too good. There was plenty of gas in there, so clearly I would say the main jet is clogged. This carburetor does not seem to have a separate low idle jet or really anything to remove other than the float and needle, which are working. And unfortunately the emulsion tube looks like it's pressed in there, so I might try to get it out, but I think first I'll try cleaning it and see if it comes back. Now this is the screw for the bowl, and this carburetor, it's also the main jet, so there's a hole there, and it sucks in the gas. I don't know if you can see it. I'm just going to take this washer off. Sucks in gas down at the bottom. And, judging by this bowl, it's really the bottom that's bad. Everything else doesn't look... It looks a lot better as you get toward the top of the bowl. So I'm hoping the clog is just here. Definitely clogged on this side. The other side looked like it was open. Top, it's kind of hard to tell, so I'm going to spray some carb spray in there and see what I see. So it's not coming out the holes. So there's a hole right there. Give it a little spray. Yeah, definitely didn't come out of the hole. And then here's the other side. Yeah. So the main jet's clogged. So I'm just going to take this whole thing apart, which is really just the float needle in the main jet. And I'm going to drop this into an ultrasonic for a while and put it back together and see what happens. Not too bad. Needle looks pretty good. Seat is maybe a little dirty, but not too bad. And actually, I don't know if you can see the emulsion tube too, but there's no varnish on it, so chances are whatever happened to this really happened just to the bottom end, and hopefully the top end is still viable. So I will tune you back in when this thing is cleaning. So in case you're wondering, Harbor Freight sells this. I prefer to use it. Actually does a very good job cleaning these things up, and I'd like to believe it's not as toxic as carburetor cleaner, and it's non-flammable, so it's safe for ultrasonic cleaners. That said, you can kind of see the job it's doing. This is already clean. The bowl is almost clean. It's only been about 5 minutes. In the main jet, I did have to use a wire to kind of unplug the holes, and I also have a micro drill bit set, which I'll probably run through the jet just to make sure that it's clean. So I'll show that later if I can. Alright, so back in the garage, give you a quick look at kind of the finished product here. No more varnish buildup. There's the main jet. And it's probably not going to focus on this, but I can see light through it now. So what I'm going to do now is actually find the smallest bit that still fits through the jet, and then just turn it through a little bit. Okay, so the number 71 fits through here. So I'm going to run it through a few times, and then I will try the next bigger one, which is 70. And if that fits, then I'll do the same thing to that. Yeah, so that's actually kind of loose. So I'll try a 70. This is 70. Actually goes through with no resistance. So I might try the next size up, which is 69. Alright, so 69 was actually too big, so 70 is what fit in there. And I'm not going to push it. If I do the next size, 69, I'm actually going to make this jet bigger than it's supposed to be, which it probably doesn't need. So I'm going to try to run it like this, see how it runs. If it's lean, then, you know, I can come back and try the next size up at that point. You know, other than that, really the only other thing I might do is just run a little wire, if this has it. Hold on. Yeah, you probably can't see it, but there is a little hole in the bottom there toward the butterfly. Just gonna stick a little wire in there and make sure that's not clogged. Sometimes there's more holes behind it. Yeah, actually I see 2 more back there, so make sure those are not plugged, as well as those 2 with the brass fittings. Most likely this one on the left probably goes nowhere, but probably spray a little carb cleaner down there just to make sure, and put it all back together. And when I turn you back on, we should be ready to see if it runs. Okay, so I got the carb bolted back up, kind of temporarily. I'm going to leave the air filter off, fuel clamp off, breather disconnected. So this is really just to see kind of where we're at. Let's see if I turn the fuel on. Not yet. Okay, fuel is on. Give it a second to fill the bowl. And if it does run, I'm only going to run it for a few, 10 seconds maybe. It's kind of late at night, everyone's sleeping. I got a cranky neighbor that, if he hears this, won't be too happy. So I'm just going to run it long enough to see if it runs smooth. Oop. Okay, it's flooding, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to take it apart again and do a better job cleaning that seat. Hopefully it comes back. Okay, back together, fuel's on. I actually don't think it was overflowing. I guess I'll find out in a minute, but on the bolt on the bottom of the bowl, I had taken that gasket or kind of paper washer off and forgot to put it back on, so I actually think it was leaking out of the bottom instead of overflowing on the top. So give it a few minutes and see where we're at. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes. Looks dry, so I'm going to try to start it again just for a few seconds, hopefully to see that it makes power, and listen to the engine, and shut it down, and hopefully button it back together. Okay, so a couple things didn't idle up very well, and there was no power. So this here actually looks like a throttle adjustment. It's attached to the spring, and as you can see, it's not touching the set screw. So I would assume to make the engine go faster, it needs to be pulling more on the throttle spring. So I'm gonna set it to where that set screw is, try it again, and hopefully it runs a little faster. There we go. So still running a little rough. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I will run it during the daytime and for a while, see if it clears up on its own, after running for a few minutes, but it's good. So it makes power and it runs. All right, decided to do one more thing before putting the air cleaner back on. I want to start it up again. I just want to see what hertz it's running at. That'll give me an indication of the engine speed. Ideally these should be running with no load, probably around 61.5, 62. And generally, once you load it at half load, it'll be a lot closer to 60 and even lower with a heavier load. So I just want to make sure we're in the ballpark before I button it back up. Yep, so it was like at 61, which is fine. So it's not, might have to adjust that a little bit after it's running for a while, but at least it's not, it's in the ballpark. It's not gonna blow the engine up. And judging by the set screw location, it's probably where it's supposed to be. So just make sure that's tight, and I'll finish buttoning up. Okay, so I'm about to sell this actually, and I realized I didn't do a final video of it running. So I'm gonna get a light and a heater to hook up to it, but you know, it runs pretty well. With no load, it does surge. I think it's an oversensitive idle, or sorry, governor. Once you put a load on it, you can unchoke it, so I'm selling it like that. Okay, so choke on